choice and quadratic voting, Othello, Discord, our grant round 4 timeline and recap, and then we're gonna go over some question and answers, which is gonna be really fun. I'm excited for that part. Grants round 4 is September 1st through September 15th. Grants round opened up on September 1st, so that's when we wanna make sure we can get started. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me directly. September 1st through the 4th is a grant round 4 budget selection. The 6th through the 15th is a budget allocation for grantees. And then on the 15th is when grant round 4 closes. So if you need to set reminders, please make sure you do that. And if you have any questions throughout September 1st through 15th, before or after that, feel free to reach out to me directly.
All right, thanks so much, Robin. Now, a lot of this session, we're going to be hearing from Matt Markman, who's going to really give us the details we need so that everybody can participate. Markman, are you ready?
I'm ready, and so happy to see so many new folks here and older folks here as well who have been a part of the DAO for some time. I'm Matt Markman. I'm the initial architect and lead operator of the DAO. I say initial architect because a DAO is designed and then it takes on a life of its own. And we are all a part of that journey now. So what I'm going to be focusing on is the voting systems that we are going to use in general, but specifically in grants round 4, upcoming starting in a few days. And as we mentioned with the schedule, you'll be receiving updates from us throughout, highlighting the key dates. So keep a lookout for those. We use 2 primary voting systems in Big Green DAO. The first is a single choice voting system, which is used to select one option from several. We use this primarily for our basic governance proposals and determining how we govern ourselves and the grant-making frameworks we are going to use. This is generally done on snapshot space, which many of you have already used in your grants round 4 roll call vote or in the recent governance proposal on donors. We also use a form of single choice voting for Othello, which is the platform that we use for our specific grants round. The second form of voting that we use, and the more complicated, is quadratic voting. And quadratic voting is what we use to select and allocate funds to organizations in each grants round. Quadratic is a powerful voting system for spreading votes out amongst many different options, in which you are able to select more than one from many. The way that we use quadratic voting is to allow for signaling both of the direction and intensity of vote. And we do this through Othello as well, which we'll be introducing in more detail later and doing a specific walkthrough for our grants round. I want to spend a little bit more time talking specifically about each type of voting and how we use it for the DAO. Single choice voting. In single choice voting, your garden token, which you should have claimed or received, is equal to 1 VP, 1 voting power. When you have a single choice vote, you select one choice from many. As you see here, this was a recent proposal that we had submitted by a DAO committee member. There were 3 options to choose from. Each vote was worth 1 VP, and results were calculated based on the percentage of vote. So this vote passed with 20 voting power in favor, with 76.92%, so 77% in favor, 11.5 against, and 11.5 abstain. This form of voting is ideal for choosing one option. It is more difficult for choosing many options, and we use it for proposals like this for our governance. Now, in grants round 4, we are going to be using a form of single choice voting during our first section of voting when we select our budget. And we'll do that through Othello. And this is for the grants round. We have a mandate from our interim governing document, the light paper, to give between 20 to 30% of our total treasury each grant round. So we will have an option to choose between this figure 20% being about 430,000 and 30% being about 640,000, I believe. We'll see the specific figures later, but that's where we're going to use single choice voting for this round. Now, quadratic voting is a form of voting that's based on the quadratic function. You know, all of us have nightmares back to algebra 2 probably when we start hearing about this, but luckily we have algorithms and developers and other people to deal with the complicated parts of this, and we just get to deal in what we're calling seed tokens. For the quadratic voting, our governing token, the garden token, is still equal to 1 voting power. However, we're able then to divide that up into a number of seed tokens and spread these tokens out across a number of choices, or in this case, organizations that have applied for funding in grant round 4. Now, in traditional quadratic funding, the way it works is that each vote costs exponentially more. So if you spend 1 vote, it costs 1 of your votes. If you want to give 3 votes, it costs 3 of your voting power, 4 votes, 16, 5, 25, and so on. Now, the way this is used is in, you know, Web3 and other voting systems. It's used to counter oligarchical power, in which, you know, people are giving with their funds and have more money have more power based on more money. So if you're going to give a higher intensity vote, it costs you more of your voting power. Now, in our system, we're trying to incentivize both high intensity of support for an organization, as well as high levels of democratic distribution of support. So we are using a quadratic informed voting formula via Othello, which incentivizes you and allows you to either go high and give a large number of votes to one organization, or go wide and spread out your votes at a smaller number throughout a wider amount of organizations. And we'll see this, how this works and how we're creating this incentivization through, in part, our quadratic funding. For quadratic funding is a tool that is developed to amplify the power of individual and single votes with a fund matching pool. The way this works is the more votes an organization gets, the more funds they are distributed. Specifically, the amount of funding is equal to the number of votes squared. So this does not matter how many seed tokens an organization gets, but rather how many individual votes. So in this case, when we're using the quadratic funding, it's more important if an organization received 10 votes of 1 seed token rather than 1 vote of 100 seed tokens. It would preference the voting power of the multitude over the individual. What we're doing in our grants round 4 is we're using both of these mechanisms, the quadratic funding matching pool to recognize multitude of votes for an organization, as well as a quadratic informed voting process to recognize intensity of votes for an organization, as we want to incentivize, you know, both poles, I guess, of that parabola, if we get back to algebra 2 for 1 second. And we're through quadratics, Sam.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, go ahead.
We're going to do a chat check-in, and we're going to converse about how does quadratic voting make you feel. Feel free to drop in the chat how you're feeling right now. I know in Web3, we use a lot of big words and different words. So feel free to just let you know if it's giving you a headache, if it's giving you high school vibes, whatever it may be, feel free to drop it in the chat and we'll keep conversing. I'm reading some of the things in the chat right now. We have some good replies. Love the use of both methods, how to test it goes. Animated example would be a good one. We'll be able to get you something like that, feel free to contact me afterwards and I can show you some YouTube videos and things of that nature. And I do believe it does make total sense once you get your head wrapped around it. It's kind of complicated, but it's like riding a bike. Once you understand the basics, it's pretty easy. Thank you all for replying in the chat. We appreciate the participation.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. Thank you everyone for sharing some of those insights. It's nice to see how people are feeling, especially when giving presentations like this. And just a little anecdote I want to add is we are really doing something experimental here. We are during the experimental phase of our DAO. We had a formula that we used in grants round 3. We worked through feedback of voting organizations with the data, with the results, and have developed that formula more for grants round 4. And now we're trying this method that actually hasn't really been used in other forms before. We have traditional voting, quadratic informed voting systems that focus on one, or we have the single choice voting. We're really combining the system and testing it out in a way that is novel. So we are excited to see how these results work out and excited for feedback throughout the process. And we're all, I think, a part of something interesting and new here. So I'm really excited to see how this goes and to be a part of this with you. And I just want to now tell you about the specific details and how we're applying this theory. In this grants round, we are going to be allocating a seed token for every organization that is applying. So we are going to have in the range of 110 applicants, and each voting organization, each garden token holder or donor will receive these 110 seed tokens, and we'll have I believe we'll have 48 eligible voters in this round. Now, when you're voting, you can either give one vote to each organization, or you can give one vote for each organization, or you can give all of your votes, all of your seed tokens to one organization, as well as a range of options in between. So as I mentioned, our quadratic function incentivizes the intensity of support for a grantee organization, as well as the number of unique votes for a grantee organization. So it creates an opportunity for you to vote for a wide breadth or indicate a high level of support without penalty, which is the traditional formula. Now, when you're dealing, part of why we've settled on this is when you're dealing with 110 organizations or this large way, it helps to have a strategy in hand going into it. So you can orient yourself to the overall applicant pool by understanding how you want to vote. Do I want to give more votes to less organizations? Then you can know going out that that's how you want to organize your thought process. Or do I want to give less votes to more organizations? Similarly, you can orient yourself to the organizations ahead of time so you know the framework that you're going into. So hopefully this is an organizing principle that is helpful for the discernment of how you want to allocate your funds. And I think now, sorry, if you can go to the next slide. Is the next slide Othello, Sam? So, okay, stay here for 1 second. If you can go back one. The one thing about what I want to say that a seed token is a seed token equates to a percentage of the total treasury. So it doesn't have an exact monetary value, but it's basically saying how much of the percentage of the total treasury you want to allocate to a given organization. So this is why we say we want to incentivize intensity of support, because you can then say, hey, I want to give all of my percentage of allocation to a single organization. And then why we say the number of unique votes matter is because we also want to see how many people support an individual organization. So that's how we are creating the voting structure. And I think the best way to see this, now that we've just talked about quadratic theory, talked about our specific grant flow, is to see it in action. So I'm going to take a few minutes to do a walkthrough of the Othello platform. And Othello is this wonderful third-party organization that as we are moving into Web3 together, they are also venturing into Web3, and they've been working in civic organization and governance for over a decade now. And they have worked with us on the development of our quadratic formula, and using their technology platform and consensus voting system, have put together what we'll be using for our voting. So I'm going to take over and show you now a little bit of how that's going to look. I'm sorry, that's the wrong screen. Sorry, just here we go. Apologize for the technical difficulties for one moment. This is a basic view of Othello. It is a Web3 enabled platform. So we will be signing in through our MetaMask wallet. The access will be required through the wallet that you hold your Garden token in. And this is what the first page looks like for the grants round budget allocation. Once you'll receive this in an email. And when you go to the evaluator sign-in, you'll be prompted to enter your name, your email, and sign up. And you sign up with MetaMask. Since I'm an existing user, I'll go into please sign in here and sign in with my MetaMask account. It will do a pop-up for MetaMask like this. It will give you a signature request and then log you in. And now you see that I'm logged in. This is the welcome screen, which will tell you that we're now choosing our budget for grants round 4. It will tell you that you can select the treasury allocation for this grants round by moving the slider. We are going to consent to sharing information with the DAO and get to our vote. Here you'll be prompted with $30,000 increments to see how much you would like to give within the 20 to 30% range. 20% for this grants round being 430, 30% being 640,000. If you say we want to give 610,000, and then like there's a comment feature, you see I made a past comment, but for example, post, and that comment is public for our colleagues to see during this voting process. And now this plays up here so we can all see that process. Once you've selected your amount, you click next. It says congratulations, you can click submit. It will go to a total votes page. It will tell you how many people voted and the votes that they've done. This page will update regularly during the process. And you can always go back and change your vote during the period that it's open. If you want to change your vote, you can just change it, click next and resubmit, or click next down here, and it will change your vote and it will update shortly. But you can still see that your vote is regulated and counted there. So this will be open for the period between September 1st and September 4th. And then once we have determined the total budget allocation, let's say we end up at 610,000, we will then move to the second stage of the voting, which is the grantee selection and fund allocation. Once again, you will go through the process of signing in with MetaMask wallet. And we are in. So now we are going to go through our voting process. Now, the quadratic informed voting and the quadratic funding is going to happen beneath the hood of the system. So the quadratic informed voting will happen let me just say here. So here we're going to say, we're going to allocate seed equal to the total amount of organizations. Here's our theory of how the system works. And because there's so many organizations, we're going to group the organizations into regional sections. And then the sections will be randomized in what order they're presented to you and within each regional area. So for this, we are given 120 seed tokens. Now, this is just a short example. You know, we have 7 organizations here. And in this round, for the allocation of funds with the distribution of seeds, we will be taking 3/4 of the treasury. And this will be 3/4 of the treasury will be solely distributed based on the allocation of seeds. So for example, if organization A receives 120 seeds and organization B, let's say they receive, 15 seeds, in this situation, organization A would receive about 10 times the amount of ratio percentage of funding. However, because we're using the quadratic informed or the quadratic funding formula, if this organization received 120 seeds from one organization, and this organization received 15 seeds from, let's say, 15 different organizations, the amount of funding that this organization received would be amplified by the quadratic formula. So they would receive a squared amount more with 1/4 of the treasury. So 25% of the treasury we will be using with the quadratic funding, which is purely based on the number of votes, not the number of seeds. So when you're voting in this situation, for example, you can give 120, all of your seeds to one organization, or you can go through and give 1 seed to every organization. And you can see that in this case, with here, and we see that we now have updating on the right how many seeds we have left. So you can go through and balance your budget with seeds. I'm going to give 15 to this organization, 15 to this organization, 15 here, 60, and I have 13 seeds left. So we have to balance the budget to get it to right. But when we have more organizations, it is easier to do. So let's just bring it back down to an even number. I'm going to give 60 seeds to 1, 60 seeds to 2. Submit my budget. We can see how many seeds I gave, and then click submit. And when we have all the voting, will be a results page that shows the total number of seeds an organization received, the total number of votes an organization received, and the total budget that the organization will receive in a range between $10,000 to $50,000. And this is the platform that we're going to be using. We'll have some videos that show this as well. Similarly to the other one, you can make posts about your thoughts. Which is available to other voting organizations or donors, other governance token holders. So that's an overview of the Othello system and how to use it. And like I said, we'll be available for help, and there'll be learning modules on how to do this as well. But this is the interactive voting and how to use it.
Markman, I have a question.
Yes.
This is Catherine from
Go
Project
ahead.
City Pine.
I
can't see your example. I can't see your example because I'm calling in. So are you using a minimum of 30,000 in your example? Is that the least amount that an organization can receive?
So the way that this has been structured this time, Catherine, is we're no longer using the exact dollar amount. We're using seed tokens instead. So you'll have, let's say if there's 120 organizations, you'll have 120 seed tokens that you can give. And a seed token is equal to a percentage of the total treasury budget. So you're voting with basically how much percentage you think an organization should receive from your allocation.
So are you saying that there is no minimum that an organization can receive, or is there a minimum?
The minimum they can receive is 10,000. So they have to break a certain barrier to reach the 10,000 threshold. So, based on the formula, they'd have to, reach, a percentage of votes that brings them up to $7,500, which would have them hit the 10,000 minimum.
And then lastly, would I be able to do any statistical probability on the data after I voted, or is that only after everyone has voted?
Yes, the results will change after you vote. So you'll be able to see how your vote impacted in total. The way this works is, we have 48 voting organizations, and let's say 120 applicants are in that range, 100 applicant range. If you decide to give 120 seeds, all 100% of your vote to an organization, that means that it will almost nearly certainly receive a level of funding and a garden token to receive the DAO. So, even 60 is a decent amount of votes when it comes to the way that we're voting.
Okay. All right, so I could do my own statistical probability of how much money the organizations that I voted for might receive based on all of the data from all of the other voting organizations.
Yes, you could do this on your own. If you know that there's 48 voting organizations, each organization has 100 seed tokens. Our total treasury amount is 600,000. You can figure out what the relative value of a seed token would be. Now, what will be more difficult is understanding the quadratic funding formula that we're applying, but that will be applied through the results page of Othello. So you'll be able to see that. And the interesting thing about this is organizations that don't hit the 7,500 roundup threshold, or organizations that surpass the 50,000 maximum, those funds will go back into the quadratic funding treasury to then get reallocated based on the multitude of votes. So that is going to be something that,
So thanks.
You're welcome. It's good to hear from you, Catherine.
Thank you so much, Markman. Thank you, Catherine. And there'll be time at the end for additional questions as well. It's really helpful, I think, to think through and hear other people's perspectives and understand all of this. So yeah, I appreciate that. Rob, are you ready to hop in and talk about how we're going to be able to communicate about our voting and the applicants in this round?
Absolutely. In Discord, you'll be able to find out more about Grant Round 4 grant seekers, and you can do that in our application, in our channel, Grant Round 4 Grant Seekers channel. If you go on Discord, on the left-hand side, you'll be able to see that channel, and you'll see a list of all the Grant Round 4 applicants. You can click on that list. You'll be able to find out their mission. You can see their website and just do some research by yourself about these organizations. I know it's over 100 plus organizations, and take your time. Feel free to go through them all. Like we're just talking about, we can give one vote to each one, or we can just give all our votes to just our favorite one. So feel free to research and do your own research on each organization. We also have our town hall recordings listed there for everyone. So if you want to hear and get more of an audio feel of what these nonprofits are doing in their communities, feel free to check those out. We have 4 different ones listed, so that's a good information to check into. Next slide, please. Thank you. You'll be able to discuss in the applicant channel about these organizations. You can ask them questions. You can interact with them. And this is one of the great things about Discord. It's where we build our community. So if you have any questions about what they plan on doing with the funds or what they're going to do throughout the weekend, after they learn more about Web3, all this stuff we want to include, you can have conversations. A lot of organizations are posting pictures of things that they're doing with their farmer market and their garden. So I've been having a lot of fun just interacting with these organizations, getting to know a little bit more and engaging with them. And now we're going to do our timeline overview. We're going to go through grants round 4, September 1st through the 15th. Make sure if you have any questions, feel free to contact me directly. I'll be able to help you out. The grant round 4 opens up September 1st and the 1st through the 4th, and when the actual budget from the Treasury is going to be selected. So we want to do that the 1st through the 4th. The 6th through the 15th is when the budget is allocated for all the grantees. That's what Markman just went through in Othello. And then on the 15th is when everything closes. So we want to make sure that we set a calendar reminder for ourselves. 11:59 is going to be the latest time that we're able to do, where it's standard for everyone. So some time zones you'll have a little bit later after midnight, but some people you have to submit it right at 11:59. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me directly. My Discord is Rob the Art Museum. You can send me emails at rob@iroart.com, or you can call me directly, and all my information is public in the Discord. So if you have any questions, just feel free to give me a call or shoot me a text message, and I'll answer your questions as swiftly as possible.
Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you, Markman. So we now have, we're a bit ahead of schedule, which I think is really excellent, and have some opportunities to start answering some questions. Ramsden, I know you've been monitoring the chat all along. Do we want to maybe start with a couple maybe important questions you want to highlight from the chat, and then there'll also be some time for folks to unmute as well and just to ask questions directly, however you all feel comfortable.
I can throw in a question or two that's come up in the chat. This one that has just come up, and I think this is good to discuss, is what we know about our applicant organizations. People are wondering what kind of demographic information we'll have on those organizations. So I can answer that in part, which say that for each organization, you'll have a description provided by the organization of how they would use a Big Green DAO grant. You'll also have a description of the communities they serve. And in this round, we included a question about to what extent their leadership and their board reflect the communities they serve. For each organization, you'll also have a link. They provide a link to an online presence, which allows you to take a deeper dive and learn more about the organization that way. And the discussion you can have with fellow token holders is a good way to sort of get lots of information as people sort of do a deep dive on one organization or another. You can share that information.
And jumping into a question from Brian just now in the chat, is there any information regarding budget selections that could be useful in thinking through what budget level to select? We can share some more metrics on total treasury value, but this is, I think, up to individual. I think some DAO committee members and other organizations who voted in the past can share how they made decisions, but I think it's a level of how many organizations are applying. if you like the organizations that are applying, if you think that, you know, the applicant pool is, and this is just a statement for myself, if you think the applicant pool is deserves the full amount that we can give, or if you think we should save some for the future, it could be based on economic considerations of funding coming in the future for the DAO. So I think there's a number of different ways that you can go about that. But, you know, we're every quarter for the grants round, the DAO is mandated to give 20 to 30% of our total treasury. So based on this, you know, based on where we are right now, that puts our total treasury value that we hold for future grant making, including this round, around $2 million. And so as we get more funds, you know, the amount we give each round will grow. As we spend more funds, it could decrease. So there's a lot of factors that could go into that. And I think, you know, others can speak to that. I think that's a great question to ask in the Discord during the voting period. And I know some DAO committee members and DAO community members from last time have probably plenty to say on that.
Terry, Ali, did you have a question? All right, I'll just do a follow-up on that, which ties in a few of the comments we've seen in Discord. Heather asked, do we know what percentage of previous applicants received funding versus, you know, how many applied? Well, we're kind of in a whole new world here. In the last round, there were, I believe, 39 applicants and 37 received funding. In this round, we'll be at 110 or 112, and there won't likely be the budget for all of those organizations to receive funding. So this is brand new for us. It's the problems you want to have, but that's the challenge this time. So when you know, when we're thinking about budget, the reality is not everyone's going to get a grant. Now, if you want to, we have information available already on Discord in the grants round for applicants channel, and you can learn about. You can already sort of review the applicants if you want to take a look at that before you decide what you think the budget should be. And I'm going to hand it over to Ade.
Hi all, I'm Ade Briones. I work for First Nations Development Institute, and I'm one of what we call the OG6, so the 6 original organizations that were brought in to start the DAO. And I just want to reiterate that what Farmer Mark said, which is this is brand new for all of us. And the whole purpose of creating the DAO was to challenge traditional philanthropic models, and in doing so, challenging the power dynamics of applicants having to apply for funds, and the funds ultimately being the power of the philanthropic organizations to grant. And because we're trying to change that on its head, Discord is really important in that we have mechanisms for participation. So we're trying to build a community of power in which the community members ultimately have the decision-making power. And so participating in Discord channels, growing the community, and talking to one another is really important. So going into this, as you're submitting applications or reviewing the processes, one of the most important things to keep in mind is that we're building community, and that this is not a traditional grant making process in that you just submit an application and someone you don't know is going to review it and award money. The process here is that you participate, we know one another, we value one another, and we get to know what your organization, what we're funding, and ultimately you have the power. So just to reiterate, participating in the Discord and participating in the community with your fellow community members in this DAO is really important. Thank you.
So I might just throw in a couple of quick review questions that came up in the chat. One, can you change your votes? Yes. As long as the vote is active, you can change your votes. And someone asked if you have to divide your seed tokens amongst all the different groupings, and the answer is no. You can distribute your seed tokens however you want. The groupings we provided are just to try to make it a little bit easier to go through the organizations and to organize them. So you have the authority on how you distribute those tokens.
And just to add to that, Matt, I think what's really interesting about this is this is where the quadratic informed voting comes in, where I just want to reiterate, and when you're deciding how to distribute your tokens, you can go high for fewer organizations, or you can go wide with less tokens for more organizations. And when you have so many, we can make this an individual decision, or it can be more collective and given to the community and developing a voting strategy amongst different groups, amongst the DAO as a whole. If everyone decides to give wide and give less, to give 3 tokens to every organization, then the amount of funding that happens in the DAO is going to be much, 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 much wider. We're going to get more organizations at lower funding. If people decide to give high and give 60, 120 tokens, we'll have high support for organizations, but we'll have less. So there is an element of thinking ahead of time that can go into the way that we vote, which is just something to consider.
Could applicants, sorry, this is Fallon with the Healthy Earth. Hi, guys. Could applicants that already received a grant, could they reapply again at a later time?
Yes.
Great question.
But go ahead, Markman.
Oh, no, take it away, please.
Sure. You can, but not for, you have to wait a period of 1 year before you can reapply for funding from the DAO. And when you do reapply, you have to burn your token. And it's a Web3 terminology. It means it's gone. You relinquish it. So if you want to, while you hold a token and while you're in the DAO, you're participating in the community and you're helping to decide how grants are distributed. If you would like to reapply, you have to step out and reapply again, but without a token. So there is no ability for someone to be in a situation where they could vote for themselves because they won't have a token if they've applied.
Hi, guys. I just wanted to come here and can I speak? Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Vero, and I'm part also of the OG6. And I just wanted to come here and encourage the community and everyone on here about participation, and just reiterating my fellow governance member. Yeah, I think the participation is important. Learning, I just want to reassure you that this is all new to all of us, and it could get a little bit overwhelming, and information can get, fall through the cracks, and you're just trying to learn this. So just be patient with yourself. Be patient with the process. These guys are amazing at the work that they're doing. I love how we changed this in this round. The structure of seeds, right? The component of seeds, of spreading seeds. I think that just tells us all the great work that we're doing. We are planting the seeds and encouraging other colleagues to disrupt this philanthropy work. And it's a great way to understand the process. So be patient, have some empathy towards yourself and to others. It took us a while, still learning. My OG6 will still say every day we learn something new, right? But this is a program and it's a project, and so we're excited. So please feel free, don't be shy asking questions, because it's important to engage and to learn this process. I also wanted to talk about the Discord. Man, you guys have done amazing, sharing everything. I'm so excited to see everyone's participation on Discord. And it's just very encouraging to all of us, right? As we grow in this community, it is definitely very encouraging to know that others are doing the same work. So kudos to everyone. So feel free to, don't be shy, ask questions. There's no right or wrong answer. And thank you to the operator team that has put all of this together and continues to help us move forward.
Let's hear from, thank you, Vero. And let's hear from another OG6, Lacey.
How's it going, everybody? I hope you guys can hear me. So I guess seeing that we're all together right now, which is a rare occasion, if not, because usually I hop on Discord. It's probably 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm done with all my work. But I think this is a time where we could definitely strategize. I think it's extremely important for us to do so, especially as a small community, as small as we are right now, because pretty soon we're gonna explode. And I feel like this is a good time for us to really strategize on how we can, get these excellent organizations the funding that they need, but also setting the example in the community. Again, reiterating Ade and Vero's consensus here of, like, we need to really use this tech for what it's for. Let's collaborate. I'm probably gonna drive over to Rob's place right now just to pull them out. As an example. So, if we're in the same neck of the woods, and even if we're not, maybe there's ways that we can be inventive with the Discord. So, like using I guess it's Instagram, isn't that right, Farmhand? We can use Instagram links to do like live video feeds on Discord to just try to, let's do things together. So I highly encourage that. Besides the voting here, I know it's going to take a little while. That's 100 and some odd organizations. This is going to be my first time doing this. Like, I'm already lining up my mochachinos and all that so I can, get through these votes. But I really do think it'd be great for us to strategize together as a team, as a community. And since we're all here right now, man, I would love to hear some strategies, from like Ray Jones or Heather Lynch down there, anybody. Like, I'd love to hear your strategies on how you're going to tackle this large event. I'm just saying one day. What? That's it.
Sergeant Lacey loves to point us out.
Wande, did you turn on your video because you wanted to chime in?
No, I'm just I'll leave the space. I have nothing to add other than just the importance. I do have something. Just the importance of building community. I can't stress that enough, and what a unique opportunity. And I saw a couple of comments in the chat, like how many applicants, there seems like a lot. And I'm telling you, if we walk away and there are 5 applicants chosen, what a blessing that is. That means there's 5 really strong organizations that need to be supported. And it's always about quality and building community over, putting 70 organizations that you might not be able to build community with. The wonderful thing about that is it's not just 6 OG6 that are making that decision, or 39 or 50 token holders that are making that decision. It is the token, or it's not just 6 OG people but it's the 39 or 50 token holders that are making that decision. So yeah, I hope the token holders would just be intentional about those decisions and making sure that we are representing organizations that are wanting to build community. And that's it. Just remember, this is a different opportunity that we've not usually had before. So nothing else to add.
I did see you roll your eyes at me. I didn't like that. I didn't appreciate that, but that's okay.
I have a quick
So,
question.
sorry, go ahead.
If like, could I get some advice with the people that have voted before, like what strategies you guys have used whenever you guys are looking over the organizations, like what you guys look for, because you know, I don't
Yeah.
really
Yeah,
know
what's your name? What's your name? I'm sorry.
Fallon with the Healthy Earth.
Val?
Fallon, like Jimmy.
Fallon. Okay. I could just share my really 30-second approach. So I know what philanthropy, like what the experiences that I've had in philanthropy. So personally, I really did take time to look at every single application. So everyone had their own approach. And so I looked online. I went to everyone's Discord channel. I went through everyone's, Charity Navigator. I went through, online presence. I went through websites, everything. And so that took several days. That was with like 40 applicants. We're talking about 100 now. So, I want to be in a position that I can sleep good at night saying that I've looked at every application, but I also know what my own personal priorities are. So Val, you're going to have your own personal priorities. So maybe you're really looking to fund, a certain region or, whatever it is. So you have to balance it with that versus what your personal convictions are versus maybe I saw somebody who said, they're looking to fund people that have really small budgets, $200,000 budgets and below, right? Those are personal convictions that you have to look at. So, but I can say that I looked at every single person's to make an assessment. There was no skipping or shorting, and I was comfortable with that. You mess around and get somebody like a day, then you have some questions and follow-up questions to deal with.
Valen, and just to add to what Wanda's saying, the conversation in our little community is always about like what has traditional philanthropy done and who have they left out. And so you can assess that in many different ways. Like Wanda, my assessment is like I want to fund organizations that are tied to the community. So their board makeup is really important to me. Like I hope that the board makeup is of the community they're serving because, philanthropy sometimes serves organizations that serve communities, but then leave. So I think the conversation is always around how to change philanthropic behaviors to be more supportive of the kinds of organizations that we come from.
And let me make something really clear, which I think is really cool. The reason our applications this round ask what communities you serve, but also ask to what extent does your leadership reflect those communities is because our community wanted to know that after our last grants round, because that's an important issue. And someone asked in the chat, how can I tell which organizations have lower budgets because I want to support grassroots? If we don't have all of the information in a way that is really accessible for this grants round, that's something we can do for next grants round. And we'll do it if the community says this matters to us and this is what we want to know, which is really one of the most beautiful things about this.
Yeah, and to reiterate about that, I think adding to that, also that's the beauty of this project, that we're able to have the opportunity to do this. When have you ever heard of philanthropy work doing that? Allowing the grassroots organization to do the research, to talk to your fellow colleagues, your nonprofits, to be able to do that. So I want to, that's the beauty of the community component. So I think that's it's 110, and yes, it does sound a little overwhelming. And I'm like, one day I'm like, oh my God, I have a lot of work to do, right? But I think that we go back that this has never been done. Like this is a history in the making. So I'm proud to be able to take the time to look at those applications and be able to make a decision from there.
Just had a question in the chat. Is there a form to discuss specific applicants? Because there's only so much that can be gleaned from the web presence. absolutely. In Discord, there is a community garden channel. That's the channel that you as token holders have access to, and the general public does not. That's the spot to ask your questions. I'll go in right now and I'll tag everyone here who's a community member in that channel, and that's the place. You can also leave comments on Othello, and you are welcome to connect with each other in whatever ways you want offline as well. But Discord is there for exactly that discussion. And don't be shy. We're straight up here. People will tell you what they think, and it's the only way to navigate this.
Thank you all so much. And I think that's actually a really wonderful way to sign off, because this conversation, as fruitful as it has been, is not the end. We're going to be continuing these conversations for the next 2 weeks as voting continues. So looking forward to observing, seeing, participating all the great conversations happening in Discord, and as the vote proceeds, and definitely take Rob up on his offer to support if you're looking for any technical assistance as well. He is here for us. That's really his role as our educator here. And thank you all so much for your time today. We'll be sharing the recording of this in YouTube, and looking forward to seeing you all again soon.